Hello everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit about Anki. It's a piece of software I've been using that's been really useful to me. There are actually some other really good guides online. I highly recommend the one from Med School Insiders. But I told some friends that I would try to make my own just to explain some basics and some of the stuff that I've been using. So, first of all, let me just take a second to explain what it is. Anki is a piece of open source software that functions similarly to Quizlet, except that whereas Quizlet is often used for cramming and often exclusively used for cramming, Anki is used for spaced repetition. And the easiest way to explain what spaced repetition is and why it's so important is to show you all something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve is a sort of visual representation of how information that has actually been learned can decay over time, and retrieval becomes more and more difficult as time continues. So let me just show that quickly. So we've got the forgetting curve here. I'm not sure if this is the original, and the actual values aren't really that important. I'm just trying to show the concept. And so you kind of see, as time goes on, it becomes more and more difficult to actually retain and retrieve information that was previously learned. And so, how do we combat this? So the trick to combating it is spaced repetition. You want to space out your repetitions in such a manner that you will bring that information back into working memory and kind of rehearse it a little bit more right at the point where it probably would have been forgotten. So there are other ways to do this, of course, and other methods that you should be using, such as reviewing with your classmates and reviewing on your own using other methods like the Feynman method or concept mapping. But Anki is just a very useful and convenient way to space out these repetitions so that you can hit a pretty high marker for retaining information. Not 100% obviously, but a lot higher than you would probably imagine, often upwards of 95% if it's done correctly, which can be unbelievably useful as you're learning new information in your courses that is obviously going to become important later on down the road. You want a really strong foundation in your prerequisite courses and your basic undergrad courses going on into more difficult classes. And so hanging on to that information is really crucial, and Anki can help you to do that. Keep in mind that it's not a magic bullet. There are other methods that you need to be using and other study habits that you need to be maintaining. But I've gotten great success from Anki, and I highly recommend it. If you are going to be using flashcards, there's not really any reason not to use it because it's the most optimized system I've been able to find for flashcards. Especially if you're using Quizlet, you don't really have any excuse because Anki is essentially Quizlet, but much more customizable. And again, this spaced repetition concept is absolutely crucial, and Quizlet just does not have that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to download it. Go ahead and do a search for Anki download. Go to this site, hit the download link, and it will download the Windows app or Mac if you have Mac. It will download the application. It will download the file that you need and just run that, and you'll get the install and you'll be good to go. You should have probably a shortcut. I don't keep any shortcuts on my desktop, as you can see, but you'll go ahead and run it. When you run it, you'll get something that looks entirely different from this. Again, I did say that Anki is highly customizable, so I've gotten add-ons to get it to look like this, and those add some really nice features and sort of make the whole layout more beautiful, so I can explain that a little bit later. A couple other things that I want to mention. So you have the desktop apps, of course. You also have a web app, and you can find that on the same site by going here. Even if you are using the desktop app, which I would recommend, it's the best version of the software, but even if you are using the desktop app, you're going to want to go to this section anyways, so you can use this sign up feature. And doing that and creating an account is actually going to allow you to use this sync feature here, which is incredibly useful because it backs up all of your files in the cloud. You're also going to want to do hard backups using this feature here, which I can explain later on. And you're going to want to do those, I don't know, I do them about once a month. Just in case your cloud file gets corrupted, you'll have a backup plan. There are also mobile apps on both Android and iOS. All of the funding for Anki comes from the iOS apps. So I think those are $30. I'm not sure because I don't have Apple. I use Android. So Android, the app is developed and maintained by an entirely different group of people. So that's free. The desktop apps are free and the web app is free. So you're only going to be paying if you're using it on iOS. Let's see. Alright, so as far as customizing this goes, I'm going to show you how to get some add-ons, and you're definitely going to want to get these. So to get to this page, it looks a little bit funny because I'm using two monitors. Go to Tools, drop down to Add-ons, and then I have to drag the window over so you can see it. So these are all of the add-ons that I have. I recommend, honestly, getting every single one of these. They've all been very useful to me. Some of them are more important than others, but they're all pretty important. And to get these, so let's say image occlusion enhanced. We're going to go ahead and do a Google search for image occlusion enhanced Anki. Okay. Click on, it should be the first result that you get, and it'll be on the Anki website. And you can see reviews for that particular add-on. Some basic information about the add-on. The actual reviews are down here. You're going to want to look for this code, copy and paste that, go back to your add-on window, click Get Add-ons. It'll bring up the second window. You can paste the code in there. What will happen is it'll let you know that the download is installed, and then once you restart Anki, it'll take effect. So after you've gotten the add-ons that you want, just close out of Anki. And then go ahead and restart it. You won't see any change in mine because I haven't actually added anything, but you'll see the new add-ons take effect after you restart the program. So the next thing I want to explain is how to create decks and how to create some basic card types. So to create a deck, you just go down here and type in the name of the deck type in the name that you want for your deck. After you do that, you can navigate to the deck, go up here to add, and it'll pull up this window. So I'm going to show you how to do 4 card types. Basic, which is a basic Q&A format. Basic reversed, which is a typical format you would see for vocabulary flashcards. Close cards, which is essentially fill in the blanks, and image occlusion, which is very useful. You can mask portions of an image and then have them revealed, so that's good for a little bit more visual learning. Okay, so for basic, we could ask a question like, then we'll give the answer below here on the back portion. Okay, and then we'll click add. At this point you can add whatever other cards you want, but I'm actually going to close out of this window so you can see what that card looks like. Let me adjust one thing just very briefly here. Okay, so we'll go down here to study now. And we get the question just like this. Hit the spacebar, and then you'll get the answer. Now check this out down here. We've got again, hard, good, and easy. If you hit the spacebar a second time, that maps to good. So if I hit the spacebar a second time, it'll register as me hitting good. You can also actually manually come up here with your mouse and click the buttons. If you're just flying through and you know the answers to most of your flashcards, you can sort of spam the spacebar. Just make sure that you're actually paying attention to the cards before you do that. If the card was very, very easy for you, you can hit easy, and that'll actually space out the review even a little bit further. If you answered the card incorrectly, you can come over here and hit again, and the card will be asked in 1 minute. So I'm going to hit the spacebar, and because I hit the spacebar, that card will be asked again in 10 minutes. Now, if I answer it correctly in 10 minutes, I'll get it 24 hours later. If I answer it correctly 24 hours later, I'll get the card again 72 hours later. If I answer it correctly then, I think it's about a week later, and I think you're sort of seeing the pattern here. As you answer a card correctly more often, the review gets spaced out further and further and further. Whereas, if you answer the card incorrectly, the reviews become closer and closer and closer to the present. So as you answer a card more correctly, and it becomes more apparent that you actually know that material, the reviews get spaced further and further out. So what you'll end up with is something like this, where you can see sort of what your reviews are for each day, but a lot of these cards were made a long time ago. So I actually have some reviews. I started using this last fall, and I have some reviews that are about a year out from now. So as you answer a card more correctly, there's more and more time that's increased before you need to answer it again. And that allows you to fit a lot of cards into a short amount of time, because you're only frequently answering the cards that you need to answer frequently. But let me show how to do a few more card types. Alright, so we can do a basic reverse. To change the card type, you just navigate up here, and that's what pulls up this window. Okay, so basic reverse. Again, that's a standard vocabulary format. So we could do something like... I actually made this card earlier, which is why it's bringing up that error message. Okay, we'll add that. Navigate out of here so I can go ahead and show that to you. So at first, we'll get a format that was just like what we used before. That's essentially a basic card, but watch what happens after I answer this. The second time, we'll get a format that's actually flipped. So instead of getting the term and then giving the definition, I'm getting the definition and then giving the term. And so I was able to create two cards using just one input. So that's very useful. Let's do another one. So the next one I'm going to do is close. And again, close is essentially fill in the blank. So what you want to start with is an entire statement. Let me think of something that I can use. So you're going to want to play around with this a little bit to see what some of the different things you can do are. I'm going to show you just one of the things that you can do with this card. So this one is, why did I change C2 to C1? Okay, so C1 stands for card 1. Let me actually back up a second and explain what I did there. So when I want to blank something out, what I first do is I select that portion. Then I navigate up here to this icon called close deletion. I hit that and it puts these brackets around that portion that I had highlighted. And basically all that that's saying is that we want to blank out that portion of the card. Okay, so when I did it originally, it was in this format and I changed this to C1. The reason I did that is because I want both of these on the same card. So typically, and I'll show this in just a minute, typically when you put in closed deletions, they'll show up on different cards. So if this would be 2 cards, and I'll show what that looks like in just a little bit. I want these to be on the same card, which is why I'm going to call both of these C1. Okay, so we'll add that. And so we'll see actually both of those portions blanked out at the same time. Now if I had left that as C2, we would get 2 different inputs where the C1 was blocked and the C2 was blocked in a second card. Go ahead and hit the spacebar to reveal them, and they both become revealed at the same time. I want to show you another thing that can be really useful with this. So you see this thing here, back extra. So this can be really useful for inputting other useful information. I'm going to copy this image here. Just some useful information on MHC 1 and 2. Okay, close it. Now the next time that I answer this card, we'll get a reveal the same time as we did before, but we'll also get this really useful piece of information down here. And so again, the way I did that was by putting that into this back extra portion. I want to show you a slightly different thing that we can do with a close card. So we can take the same statement as before, right? Okay. This time we're going to do some different cards. I just want you to see what that looks like. And so when I do a close deletion, I'm not going to alter anything. So when I do this, every single one of these is going to appear on a different card. What that'll actually look like in practice is this. Okay, here's the one that we did before, right? And these are the new ones. So we get this blanked out just on its own. Bam. And then we see these 3. So answer that. You can answer that. And then it goes to that. And again, just remember, if you get any of these incorrect, you can hit again. And it'll get you to review that card again. The last one that I want to show is image occlusion. Super, super, super useful. Okay. So actually we don't need to do that. I apologize. It's been a while since I made an image occlusion card. The first thing you're going to want to do is look up the whatever image file you're going to be using to occlude. So if you're learning the heart, you can copy a picture of the heart. So you copy the picture to your clipboard. Next, you want to go to this blue icon where it says Add Image Occlusion. This can actually be any card type. You don't have to set it to image occlusion. All you really need to do is just hit this little blue icon. And when you do that, it'll pop up this entire menu here. And you can actually drag across the screen with your mouse. Just hold down with your mouse and drag, and you can select what portions that you want to block. So if you wanted to, you could just block out all of it. Block out every term if you wanted. It's not always necessary, but I'm just using this as an example, so I'm going to do that so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we've masked every term, and look how quickly that happened. Now we've created, let's see, what is this? 13 different cards, I think, in just like 10 seconds. So once you've masked everything, you have two options to add your cards down here. You can select Hide All, Guess One. If you select that, what you'll get for the question is a card that looks like this, where all the terms are masked, and then it asks you just to answer one of them. If we select Hide One, Guess One, what you'll get is something that looks more like this original image, except only one of these terms will be masked, and it'll ask you to answer that. I'm going to use Hide All, Guess One. Okay. I'll close out of that so you can see what that looks like. And so here you go. So the red, it highlights red the term that you want to answer. You answer that. And you can keep going through these. And so every single term can become a different card. And it becomes a really efficient way to review material because you can create these cards very quickly and review them very quickly. So yeah, those are the 4 basic card types that you want to know how to use. I think I'm going to create a second video with some more details, but I don't want the length to run too long on either one, so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now, but I hope this was useful.